The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-point underdogs at home this weekend when they take on their AFC North rival, the Baltimore Ravens. If you want to get in on the NFL action, BetOnline.ag is the place to do it. Football's in full swing. You got the NBA, college basketball started up, NHL, any of the sports action. Head over to betonline.ag today. It's America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Welcome into the Bleav in Steelers show. My name is Mark Bergin. We're keeping it in the Bleav family yet again. I'm excited to welcome in Matt Trigger. He is the host of Bleav in Ravens. Have mercy, folks. Special crosspod edition with the AFC North rivalry taking full stage this weekend. Matt, welcome into the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And we're going to start out. The Pittsburgh Steelers have won 7 of 8 against the Ravens. And on the line this weekend, where it's like, which team's going to reign supreme in the division? Both these teams are playing at a really, really high level. Pittsburgh comes in having won 4 in a row. And what is it? 7 of 8 for the Ravens after starting out 0-2. And the stage is set, and it's like, we're less than a month away from in-season Hard Knocks. I want to get your read, Matt, of just what the stakes are going into this game and then how the Steelers have managed to win 7 of the last 8, because I was there a year ago in Pittsburgh, and it was like the Baltimore receivers just forgot how to catch the football in that one.
Yeah, that was a rough one last year, Mark. We dropped 4 touchdown passes and 6 other passes by my count.
Yeah,
that was a very rough game for us. You guys just have our number right now, and there's no other way to really describe it. And it's tough admitting that as a Ravens fan, because you guys are the game we have circled on the calendar twice a year, no matter where we're at in Hines or we're in Baltimore. And it's really, it's frustrating because we are dominating the Cincinnati Bengals in head-to-head the last couple of years, and then it just seems like we can't get a good read on you guys. You guys also have a very good defense, a very good pass rush the last couple of years. TJ Watt is one of one. Him and Myles Garrett might be the best pure pass rushers on the planet still to this day, and they have been for the better part of the last handful of years. Cam Hayward, still a really good pass rusher. You have Alex Highsmith, and then you added Preston Smith. So that's for the game this coming weekend, obviously. But it's really interesting that we can't seem to get over this hump. It's like Lamar's regular season kryptonite is playing you guys. And this is the first time that our game has had meaningful stakes early on in the year, where you guys aren't 8-8 fighting for that last playoff spot. It's been like that the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's a fair assessment because it's the truth. But this is for the lead in the AFC North, and we meet again in a month. And these 2 games right here can decide who wins the AFC North and who is on the road the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this one. 1 o'clock kickoff. And I'm going to say this too. What I noticed a year ago when they play Baltimore is the widened splits defensively. Now, what I mean by that is TJ Watt will line up over any team's opposing right tackles. And you talk from, if a guy's in a 0 technique that's directly over the center, he's usually in about a 7 technique. I saw him even wider in like a 9 technique a year ago when I watched this game. In the widened splits of Watt and then whoever lines up across from him, because Alex Highsmith will be out with an ankle injury. We'll talk about that in a bit here, a bit later here in the show. But to me, the widened splits is the big thing, but it's stopping this Ravens attack, which leads the NFL right now, headed into week 11 now, where it's leading the lead in points scored, leading the league in yards per game, leading in rushing yards. King Henry, who's leading the league in rushing yards individually, has been a big part of that from the Ravens offensively. So how you try to slow that down, you try to keep Lamar on the pocket, but if you have those widened splits, Derrick Henry's going to eat you alive in this game. And from afar, that's what I've seen the Ravens do to be able to do to teams, is that ground game has been the secret sauce and the recipe and the honest 11-on-11 that Lamar forces you to play. You add King Henry to the mix, and it's a chocolate and peanut butter combination, Matt.
I'm gonna go a little bit outside the box, and this isn't going to be a game where Derrick Henry goes off for his typical 120, 130-yard performance. If he cracks 100 yards against your defense, I would be shocked. And I know that you guys play the run very well. You're giving up a league-leading 2.7 yards per carry, and you are second in the NFL in points allowed for the entirety of the season. So you guys do have a stout defense, and I don't expect anything less with the Mike Tomlin-led Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think this might be the game where you see a lot more Freudian slip, a lot more Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell came back last week for the first time. I was at the game. I got to see Keaton make his season debut. He only had a handful of plays, but this might be one of these situations where we take advantage of that wide 9 set where TJ Watt and Preston Smith, who it might be this week, or whoever is in those wide 9 splits, and we do a lot of stretch play, 25, off tackle type of situation, to where if you have a tight end or the right tackle can be quick enough to kick out and TJ doesn't crash, this could be a long day. And that also sets up for a lot of, I guess, I don't necessarily want to say jet plays because TJ is good at defending those, but a lot of quick pop screens that can almost double as a running play. And the Ravens have been running a lot of bubble screens this year, which is crazy that they've been successful. But that's where Keaton comes in. That's where Zay comes in. That's where Bateman comes in, Justice Hill. So there's a lot of different guys that can make plays out in open space for this Ravens team. I worry because TJ Watt single-handedly disrupts football games, and Cam Hayward is still a hoss in the middle, even. And I know that he's up there in age, but he is still a stalwart. He's still a playmaker. I Bleav you guys have Larry Ogunjobi, who's another playmaker. So this is going to be a hard-fought game. I'm confident that we can move the ball a little bit better because we have a better offense this year, but I'm still skeptical because it's the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Yeah, Cam Hayward at 35, and let me give you some grief, Matt. Wishing J.K. Dobbins back already. I already know that the Steelers got you. You know?
No, it was a Freudian slip of all things, but it's
I only kid.
Yeah, I'm happy for the success. We're actually going to see him next week after we play you guys. I'm not looking past this game. This is for AFC North supremacy. Whoever wins. I mean, honestly, whoever wins this game has a clear shot at the AFC North crown. Cincinnati's 4-6. Cleveland's 2-7. They should be 1-8, but I'm not going to go there, to say the least.
Let's keep this rolling. Russell Wilson, after 3 games, he has as many touchdowns as Kenny Pickett had all of last season. It's gone about as well as you could have hoped from Pittsburgh's standpoint. Now, the first 2 games I'm looking at, it's like, both New York teams kind of lousy. This last week's game, you're down 10 points on the road against one of the best quarterbacks, albeit a rookie, in Jaden Daniels in the entire NFL, and able to lead the Steelers to a comeback win on the road against a team I fully expect to make the playoffs. And I was on the record saying I thought the Steelers were making a mistake in moving to Wilson with how Fields played at the start of the year, leading the Steelers to a 4-2 start. To me, though, Matt, it's as simple as this with Russell Wilson. His ability to get George Pickens the football, who is your best offensive skill position player, that's really been the difference. We could talk about the touch and the acumen and the ball placement and knowing where to go with everything. Giving your guy a chance when he's open consistently, and the connection he's had with George Pickens, that's been the key from my standpoint of what's unlocked this Steelers offense. What say you from afar with Russell Wilson's performance through 3 games?
Your head coach has put him in the best possible position to make an impact, and he's not a square peg trying to fit into a round hole like he was with Denver. Peyton makes everybody adjust to his scheme, and Tomlin's really catered the scheme to quarterbacks who can't get the ball downfield 60, 70 yards in the air, because that's never been Fields' game and that's never been Russ's game. A lot of people forget Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but Russ is still a very good quarterback. He's just been saddled with some injuries and some pretty bad football teams the last couple of years. And now he's in an offense now where you've got a pretty decent offensive line holding up protection for you. George Pickens is a really good wide receiver. You got, you went and got some help with Mike Williams. That's only going to help Pickens in the long run. You have Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. You have good offensive skill players, Pat Freiermuth. So it's a perfect combination of scheme and playmaking ability from his supporting cast. That's all. I mean, you can't accredit it to anything else. There's no such thing as luck. He's prepared for this for a long time. He's making all the throws. His guys are getting open. You can't really ask for much more than that. And I'm not saying that he should be making these plays. The man's a good football player. He's very accurate. He's got pinpoint precision in certain situations. So I fully expected Russ to have a pretty good year. I didn't think he was going to miss the first month the first 6 weeks with a calf injury. That was kind of unfortunate. I really thought that Russ was going to sit on the bench, but Tomlin being Tomlin, he stuck to his guns, and it's working out well because you're in first place in the North, and we're getting ready to get into the tough stretch of the year where it gets cold, and Russell Wilson's used to this type of pressure. Pittsburgh's always had a good quarterback for the last 20 years. So I know you went through that short spurt with Kenny and the
Mitch and Mason Rudolph. Matt, you were talking Russell Wilson in year 13 with the Steelers, and I think it was his second year in Seattle that they went on and won the Super Bowl. Okay. But just the veteran leadership that he brings, and there's still some gas left in the tank. I look at it from the standpoint of when he was in Denver that first year, Nathaniel Hackett was his head coach, gets fired midway through the season. He was playing with the torn lat muscle as well. And then year 2, Sean Payton has to do the bidding of the Denver front office and saying, hey, we're not going to go with Russ moving forward. We want to bring in a young stud, and now they have Bo Nix this season. But Russ is probably trying to prove, I mean, both he and Fields are under contract for this season, combined less than $5 million, that he's going to want to get that one last contract and that one last opportunity to go on a playoff push. Does that end in a Super Bowl this year? I don't know. It looks pretty good right now, but that's the stakes right now with Russell Wilson to say, hey, I still got it even in year 13 in this league with all of the football he's played to this point. 9-time Pro Bowler. He is a Super Bowl champion. He should be a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And he's getting his opportunity and making the most of it this season in Arthur Smith's offense with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I agree with you. I agree with everything you said, honestly. And it's as much as I don't like to compliment what's going on in Pittsburgh, you guys have a quarterback that is necessary for this group. You have a very solid mix of young guys and veterans. Some guys might be on their last leg. I'm not saying Hayward's going to retire at the end of the year, so to speak, but Hayward's getting up there in age. TJ Watt, you're eventually going to have to pay him again, and that's going to be a large chunk, so you're not going to be able to pay other guys. Minka's probably due soon. You have all these different guys on the offense. You're going to have to pay Pickens wide receiver 1 money, so there's going to be some hard decisions that you have to make. But when you got that kind of group now, I equate it to the Ravens. There's going to be some hard decisions you have to make, and eventually you're going to have to pay some people and let some people walk. But while you got the perfect situation for your quarterback to be making as little money as he is while still being able to lead this team, it's an incredible feeling, because Russ could have went anywhere and he was still making that 40-something million from the Broncos. But, so it speaks volumes that he trusted Tomlin to get him to a place where he needed to be.
And then it's like, what is he worth in the offseason if this continues on the current course? And even if the Steelers win a playoff game, you're saying, well, this is a franchise that's used to winning Super Bowls. They've got 6. Steelers have not won a playoff game since January of 2017. So if he goes and leads the Steelers to a playoff win, even in his mid-30s, he's going to want one more contract, whether it comes from Pittsburgh or elsewhere. Yeah, you're going to want to take a hometown discount, but with how he's playing right now, that was the one thing going into this year I thought general manager Omar Khan did a great job of at the quarterback position, the contractual value. I don't know if Justin Fields is a Pro Bowl caliber or a playoff caliber or Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I know he's a starter. He can be a starter for at least one of the teams in the bottom half of the league at a minimum. I know Russell Wilson is a starter for one of the teams in the league at a minimum. So the fact that you're getting the contractual value from both of those players, what that looks like beyond 2024, it's going to be fascinating how the rest of the season plays out. How the Steelers handled the quarterback situation is going to be the biggest storyline for Pittsburgh this season. But what that looks like beyond this year, when you might have to pay a premium for one of the two, because good teams don't let their star quarterbacks out on free agency. Even if you're above average or a good quarterback, but not a great quarterback, like look at the deal Kirk Cousins got in the offseason with the Falcons. Look at what Dak Prescott just got re-upping with the Cowboys, right? So those are the stakes beyond this season. And so like, I want to see how this season unfolds, but what that looks like in 2025, when a lot more of your salary cap's going to have to go to one of the two guys, or if you did something even crazier in free agency. I knew this, Matt, and I'll land here. Going into this year, paying Russell Wilson and Justin Fields less than $5 million combined versus coming into this year with Kenny Pickett, bring back Mason Rudolph, and then you knew Mitch Trubisky was done and over with here in Pittsburgh. It was better on paper. It's a better contract, and we're seeing it unfold through the first half of the season where you're a lot better off with those players on your roster than you were a season ago.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that sentiment. It's really hard to look forward to 2025 because you really got to get as much as you can out of this year, because you don't know what your situation is going to look like next year.
Yeah.
And while Russ could go theoretically get paid by a New Orleans or by a Las Vegas or somebody of that nature, he could potentially go to Carolina and get a big payday if they choose to move on from Bryce Young. There's a lot of different situations that he would theoretically get paid in, but he's kind of having a career resurgence right now after having a down couple years in Seattle, and then he went to Denver where that blew up. If I'm Russell Wilson, why do I want to leave this cast? Pickens is still on his rookie wide receiver deal. Freiermuth is still on his rookie tight end deal. Najee Harris, you can pretty much plug and play anybody into that system. That's a serviceable back. He's not a 1,600 yard on the ground kind of guy. So running backs are a dime a dozen in most of these offenses these days. Yeah. Save, and I say that, not in just with what we got going on with Derrick Henry, but for the last handful of years, we've had a ton of different guys in our backfield: Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, Keaton Mitchell, those kind of guys. Derrick Henry's a once in a generation running back, so I leave that out of the conversation. But why would Russ want to go somewhere else? You could probably get 25 or 30 million out of the Pittsburgh Steelers alone and say, hey, here's the discount. Give me 3 years and 90 million. Let's make the last year an option year. So you essentially get
2 years, 2 years guaranteed. Yeah.
A 2 year guaranteed deal. I know that's all speculative, but if Russell's happy, I don't see him going and chasing money. He's already got the ring. Now you want to get paid, but you still want to win. Now it's his legacy at stake more so than anything else.
You're in my brain, which is a dangerous place to be. I do want to keep it Steelers, Ravens, a few other topics I want to get to, Matt. Do you see what Mike Tomlin said today about Diontae Johnson, who's going to be going up against his former team in the Pittsburgh Steelers? Did you see this today?
I did not. I was working later in the evening. I haven't had a chance to scour.
Sure. So Mike Tomlin says, and this was a quote, he hadn't thought, and quote, a lot about facing Diontae Johnson. Another quote says he's not on a lot of their video. They're more they've got more significant pieces with larger roles to worry about at this point in the week. End quote. I thought it was incredible where it was Mike Tomlin, where it's like, are you worried about Diontae Johnson? in a word, no. Like it was just like
That's such a Tomlin answer though.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was funny, that it's funny you mentioned that because Deontay's been here for a week and a half. I don't expect him to have much of an impact yet.
Of course.
Now
Of course.
by that second Steelers game, I expect him to fully be immersed into this offense and making plays. But if you look at the grand scheme of things right now, Isaiah likely should be back from his injury. We have Mark Andrews, so you have one of the better tight end rooms in football. Charlie Colder is sneaky in the pass game. He's more of a blocking guy though. And then you have Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. Then there's Diontae Johnson, and I don't say it in a facetious type of way, but he's the fourth on the pecking order, possibly five, because Tylan Wallace had his coming out party that last Thursday night against the Bengals at home, where he had 3 catches for 115 and a touchdown, and he essentially sealed our go ahead touchdown late in the game. So and that's not even including the running backs. There's 6 or 7 guys on this offense that Mike Tomlin should rightfully game plan for before Diontae Johnson. You
Yeah.
know what Diontae Johnson is. He played there for, I Bleav, 3 years.
Yeah,
So
it was
you
the first 5 years of his career, and
okay,
I'm looking at it where it's like, okay, King Henry, obviously his reputation. Andrews, got to know where he's at, and then Flowers is a special player, is a special player.
right. And then Bateman's good at moving the chains. He's very dynamic in that way. Nelson Aguilar is good for a first down catch here or there, and Isaiah likely is essentially a wide receiver that's listed as the tight end. So there's a lot of guys on this offense that can move the chains and can get open. And Mike drafted them, Mike coached them, so you really know what you're getting. It's not much has changed because if things were different with Diontae Johnson, we wouldn't have him.
Sure, yeah, and he's a really solid route runner. What I would say this a little bit to be desired in the run blocking game, but that's not really why he's on your team. Where it's like he can just find ways to get open, use his route running ability and his quickness underneath, and it was a constant. The one constant the Steelers had in their offense in his first 5 seasons with Pittsburgh, and so the trade to Carolina, they get Diontae Jackson back in the trade. But trying to fulfill that Steelers receiving role opposite George Pickens was something that Pittsburgh was trying to do. And your same sentiments about Diontae Johnson and getting acclimated, Matt, and getting used to the playbook and getting used to a new quarterback and a new team and everything. It's how I feel about Mike Williams. A lot of people on my channel after the game do my post-game reaction. Why only 1 target? Yeah, it was the go-ahead score late in the game. Why wasn't he more part of the game plan? He got to Pittsburgh on Tuesday. We're recording this on Tuesday night, Matt. He's been with the team for a week. So it's like,
Right.
give that time to develop. I like in the parallel with what Mike Williams is to Pittsburgh and then Diontae Johnson to Baltimore, where it's like, it's not just like Madden where it's a plug and play and it's just going to work
Correct.
immediately. It takes time to get acclimated to a new team.
Absolutely. You got to give him a little bit of a chance. And that's why a lot of people, on the Ravens websites and message boards and social media, well, why didn't you give Keaton Mitchell the ball 15 times? Why didn't you give the ball to him 10 times? That man suffered a catastrophic knee injury, non-contact, a year ago. And you got to work them back in. This was like a preseason game for him. Same thing with Diontae Johnson. He's been learning. He had probably just started learning the Carolina playbook fully and the wrinkles that they were adding every week. And now you're trading him. See, people forget about the trading aspect in the NFL. Same thing for all professional sports. I don't know if he's got a family or not, but you're literally being called by your agent. Hey, you've been traded to Baltimore. You got to find a place to live. Got to get all your stuff up there. Got to go say goodbye to your teammates. Got to hop on the first flight. You got to get to Baltimore. Find your way from the airport to the facility, which is a 40-minute drive down where we are, 40-minute drive, depending on the traffic. And then you got to essentially throw on a new uniform and go right out there and practice. You're hopping in all the different drills. You're hopping in all the different meetings. It's a lot more to it than just going from one team to the other. There's so many different aspects of a trade. And to expect Mike Williams and Diontae Johnson to be 100% contributors and have these big gaudy numbers, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep this moving. Alex Highsmith's going to be out for this game for the Steelers. So advantage Ravens, but Steelers could get back Nick Herbig from a hamstring injury. We'll see if he can go opposite TJ Watt. That's also why you make the deal for Preston Smith. It wasn't just Mike Williams at the deadline that the Steelers acquired on Tuesday. They also got Preston Smith. So if Herbig can't go, I expect it to be Smith opposite Watt. And the reason why that's so important to me, Matt, is like we were talking earlier about the attention TJ Watt garners. He's going to get doubled, triple teamed, chipped. If you're going to do that and game plan for 90 and know where number 90 is, someone else is going to have one-on-one opportunities, whether that's Herbig, who's done that when he's been healthy. Highsmith, the reason why he got a contract extension with the Steelers. If Herbig's unable to go, or even if he can, I'm excited to see what Preston Smith can do with this opportunity. But that's going to be a big matchup, is whether it's Preston Smith or Nick Herbig come Sunday. Mano-a-mano, Steelers edge rusher up against Ravens left tackle, because I know what TJ Watt's going to bring to the table, but in those one-on-one opportunities, that's going to be one of the big things I'm looking at come Sunday.
Yeah, I'm actually more confident now in Ronnie Stanley than I have been in a very long time.
And why is that?
Because he's on film, on paper, he's having one of his best seasons. I think he's only given up 1 sack this year, I Bleav. And he's very good in the run game this year. He's pretty much back to being fully healthy from that injury he sustained. He had a lot of complications with surgery. He had a lot of complications with the rehab to it. Um, the offensive line is maintaining continuity because we've had the same 5 starters for 4 weeks now. This will be week number 5 that they've all been together in Pittsburgh. So I have a feeling that Ronnie will be able to hold his own. And I'm not just saying that because he's a really good left tackle, but he's really done well being left on an island by himself, knowing that our rookie Roger Rosengarten has struggled early on, and we have a right side of the offensive line that has never started in the NFL before this year. So I know a lot of attention has been paid over there with tight end help or help from Patrick Ricard, running back chips, all that type of stuff. So Ronnie's been very, very, very efficient being left on his own over on that left side. I'm not saying he's back to that all pro level, but he's pretty close. I would definitely say he's providing solid blocking both in the run and pass game, being left alone essentially.
Got you. All right, final topic of the show, Matt, is this. Ravens offense has been prolific this year, but the defense, I got to read off a few of these stats because honestly, I had to do a double take. I didn't Bleav some of them. Allowing the most yards or the most passing yards per game in the NFL, 294 passing yards a game, 47 plays of 20 yards or more allowed. The Jaguars are second with 42. Like, I know Kyle Hamilton will know more about his health come Wednesday. And then Marlon Humphrey's got 4 interceptions. But what has it been with the Ravens pass defense this season? Because at least with Hamilton and Humphrey, I know you've got some talent there.
Well, I'll start off by saying this with Hamilton. Hamilton's been more of a box safety for us the last couple of years. We haven't really let him roam free as a center fielder type of free safety that we're accustomed to seeing in Baltimore. I'm gonna give you a quick stat that just magnifies the problem that we have at free safety in particular. Uh, Marcus Williams is rated the worst starting free safety in all of football, right behind Geno Stone, who used to play for us, which is ironic. Since the 2012 or the 2013 draft, after our Super Bowl year where we let Ed Reed walk, we've drafted 1 true free safety in all 7 rounds of each draft total. And that's Geno Stone in the 7th round of 2020. We've invested almost $153 million in the free safety position in free agency since then, between Eric Weddle, Earl Thomas, and now Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams is a huge liability at this point. I'm not making excuses for the entire defense. a lot of people are in Ravens Nation are upset about how this defense has performed. A lot of people are forgetting Mike McDonald took that system with him to Seattle. And then on top of that, Jadeveon Clowney went and got paid. Geno Stone went and got paid. Patrick Queen went to you guys and got paid.
Mhm.
I think you guys are seeing the frustration we had with Patrick Queen for the longest of times because he's a better Robin than he is Batman. And um, a lot of people don't understand that it's a 31-year-old defensive coordinator who's had 10 games under his belt. And he's installing a new system. Guys are being replaced. 8 out of 11 starters are back, but it's a different system, different guys getting, a chance to play. Trenton Simpson's a good young linebacker, but he's not Patrick Queen yet. Eddie Jackson is nowhere close to what Geno Stone was for us a year ago. The fact that Eddie Jackson even still has a spot on this roster is one of the eighth wonders of the world. And the pass rush is down this year. Jadeveon Clowney had 10 sacks last year. I think he leads the league almost in quarterback pressures this year. I think he has around 30. So we just couldn't get the deal done. We tried to bring him back. It's really hard to watch this defense because last year we had a historically great defense, and now we have a historically awful defense. And we have probably the most prolific offense in Ravens history, and arguably the most prolific offense in the NFL right now. And to see it be wasted on a team where 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, you scored 21 points on this Ravens team, your defense was going to hold it down. And now we're scoring above 35 points for 4, 5, 6 games in a row, and it's not enough. It's mind blowing to watch how bad this team is defensively. I pull no punches on my show with Daniel Wilcox. It's different because it's a player perspective versus a fan perspective. Roquan Smith seems a little bit slower this year. He seems like he's added a little bit of weight. It seems like he's struggling in pass coverage. And if you look at the stats on ESPN.com or wherever you get your stats, he's up there in the league leaders in tackles. But he's making those tackles 7, 10, 12 yards downfield as opposed to before the chains. And it's just a lot of different guys are struggling. It's a different scheme. It can be, you can name 4 or 5 different things going on right now. And the only thing that's remaining consistent right now is our interior defensive line is still stout. That's about it. And Kyle Hamilton's playing like Kyle Hamilton.
Is this a concern for you from a big picture standpoint? Take it even beyond this game, Matt, beyond
Oh,
this.
absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. I'm
No,
sorry.
that was my question is to me, I'm looking at this and it's like, this isn't a good trend considering we're, halfway through the season where you can get by in the regular season. You can even argue the Ravens should have another win in that season opener against Kansas City, where if Isaiah Likely is 6 inches further ahead and he gets his
Yeah.
foot in bounds, you win that game. And so you look at the record, you look at the offense and what Lamar's doing and how Lamar's, on track right now to win his 3rd MVP. But I look defensively where it's like, that is not a recipe now that we're in November, December and January football. When you get into playoff football, you're not, there's different styles that you're going to have to win. You can't just win every game as a shootout. To me, that would be very concerning, but you've obviously
Yeah.
watched the Ravens a lot closer than I have this season.
This defense isn't holding water right now. I've sat through my fair share of seasons where we have a bend don't break defense, and I'm sure you can relate to the same thing as well.
Yep.
AFC North defense, playing defense in this division is challenging in and of itself. But honestly, man, I'm looking at the defense and how they're playing. I'm thinking to myself, do I really trust going to Buffalo and having to stop Josh Allen again? We held him to 10 points. That's the best defensive performance we had all year. But with the way the things are shaking out now, I don't know if that's possible. Can you trust that you're going to go into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead in January? Like
Yeah.
where you're not going to be able to throw 5, 6 touchdown passes. You're going to have to rely on Derrick Henry a lot more as that progresses. But right now our defense is our offense, and I'll say this: the longer we have more sustainable drives and we keep the offense on the field and we wear down the other defense, and you make it a situation where you've got to, where you don't have a whole lot of time on the clock to run your offense without the fear of losing. That's the only way we're beating teams right now is our offense is having these long sustaining drives when it matters. And that's a terrible recipe, Mark, because perfect example against the Cincinnati Bengals at home this past week.
Mm-hmm.
We go up and the stadium's rocking. We score our touchdown, and then the very next play, Jamar Chase goes for another long touchdown. It's like that. There's no evening out. There's no the defense and the offense are not cohesive to make this team win. The offense is playing well in spite of how bad this defense is, and it's frustrating because we may be wasting one of the greatest offenses to ever step on the football field for this putrid excuse of a defense. And I'm allowed to be critical of them because they haven't played up to par. Everybody's that was productive last year, they're down defensively. Justin Madubuike had a 3-sack game, but before that, you forgot that Madubuike was on the field for a while. You know, Kyle Van Noy started off the year with 6 sacks, and he hasn't had a sack in a month at this point. So there's a lot to be desired when it comes to this Ravens defense,
I had
knowing
to
that it's electrical on the field when they're on offense.
I had to do a double take when I was researching the information in advance because I'm
Yeah,
like, the Ravens, like, I'd expect this from maybe another team in the league, but the Ravens, I couldn't believe it. And you mentioned, say 5, 10, 15 years ago, there's a lot of parallels on how both the Steelers and the Ravens achieved success. And it's not flashy, it's not pretty, but running the ball, controlling the clock, controlling line of scrimmage, winning the turnover battle. It's how you've won a lot of games in this league. It's how
yeah.
you've won Super Bowls in this league. There's a lot of parallels between the two organizations. He is Matt Trigger. He's the host of Bleav in Ravens. Matt, if there's anything you need to plug, the floor is yours.
Not really. We're live. We'll be recording tomorrow night. We'll have Bruce Cunningham, who is a local radio host here for 105.7 The Fan on the weekends, and he used to be the Fox 45 News sports director for the longest time. Bruce is a great friend of Daniel's and myself, so we'll be having him tomorrow night. Just looking forward to cranking out some more content. I appreciate you having me on the show, man. It was great to talk some Ravens and Steelers.
Hey, give Daniel my best as well. I always like chopping it up with him and getting the perspective of what it's like from the player standpoint as well. So really
Absolutely.
cool. You get the opportunity to do that. He is Matt Trigger. My name is Mark Bergin. I want to thank today's presenting sponsor, BetOnline.ag. If you enjoyed listening to Bleav in Steelers, please leave us a 5-star review, Apple and Spotify. On YouTube, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button as well. I'll be live again on this channel Sunday, immediately following Steelers and Ravens. Until then, take care and so long, everybody.